In just a few days, we'll be celebrating the 4th of July. I want to bring you a brief message which I have entitled, Let Freedom Ring. Within the realm of the Christian community, a long and bitter debate has raged for many years between two schools of thought, which has divided both the Protestant and, of course, other religious movements for the past century. These different viewpoints on biblical interpretation have been described as the debate between fundamentalism and the liberal standpoint. Fundamentalism is described as those who take a more rigid stance or literal interpretation of biblical accounts. Liberalism, on the other hand, theologically speaking, is more in line with a mythological mindset. As a Christian, and having been influenced by the world's most noted fundamentalist, J. Frank Norris, I wish to offer a few insightful comments in defense of the rigid concept of biblical interpretation. On this 4th of July, just a few days hence, once more, our minds will be transfixed on the meaning of this memorial event. Our liberties and freedom did not come about easily. I would remind you, for hundreds of heroic men and women had to pay a dreadful price for these freedoms we now enjoy. I can relate to you my experience, having reached the ripe old age of 92 years. I have a limited amount of information, and of course, my information is of a parochial nature, but without disparaging the sentiments of others with whom I may disagree. I'm entitled to my viewpoint. So, as I reflect upon the past, I'm bound to acknowledge every element of society, both collectively and individually, whose past efforts have laid the foundation upon which we give credit for the freedoms we now enjoy. World War II was an epochal point in our history, and without belaboring the point, I would remind you that from every nook and cranny of this nation, hundreds of red-blooded young men answered the call of duty. I could recount to you, if I had the time, many stories of testimonials which redound from those citizens of how their simple faith, let me underscore those two little words, simple faith in the written Word of God, sustained them through the long nightmares of World War II. I doubt that you would find very many mythological believers in foxholes. In other words, they probably did not exist. And now moving on into the Vietnam era, it was not fundamental churches that offered a sanctuary in this time of turmoil. All of this, that era of the Vietnam War, all of this is a painful reminder of the troublesome times 30 to 40 years ago. But neither fundamentalism nor those of a literal persuasion offered meaningful solutions. In other words, there was a great dilemma facing us. America has long been known a land of rugged individualism. Admittedly, the score is about even in this category. But, not surprisingly, I come down on the side of those proponents of a rigid biblical viewpoint, whose numbers are countless. So, before anyone shall speak disparagingly of the fundamentalist or fundamentalism, the entire story needs to be told. And my friends, that is yet to come. For sure, most liberal theologians place a greater emphasis on the social aspect of the gospel. That, in of itself, is not all that bad. Not surprisingly, however, the next step is a socialized America. And I remind you, that does not hold true for the fundamentalists who hold an entirely different viewpoint from that of liberal theologians. I could say much more, but as I bring this message to a close, let me ask this question. If you cherish your freedom, give credit to where credit is due. You may be a fundamentalist, but not yet quite aware of it. Let the fundamentalist message be heard, and may God bless the United States of America.